Hey, what's going on, everybody? Another Halloween recommendation for you, and kind of a short commentary on the director in general, and that is Italian horror legend Dario Argento. And anyone that is a fan of the horror genre will know that name. He's right behind John Carpenter for me as far as my favorite horror directors of all time, and has long body of work that's I don't know, maybe I think it still holds up, but that definitely has some effects used and soundtrack that may be a little off-putting to some people. It's kind of a reflection of the times that some of these movies were made. Typically 70s and 80s. And so I mean, he's got a lot of different films that are solid to check out. One of them was probably one of his more famous ones, is Profondo Rosso, which in English is Deep Red, which is about a musician, a pianist that happens to witness the murder of this psychic, and goes to the crime scene right after it happens, and ends up kind of pairing up with a journalist to try and figure out who the murderer was. And there was a clue in the apartment that or something that he forgets. That's the key to kind of all of it, and so it's an interesting take on kind of a murder mystery slasher type flick. Then you have Suspiria, which is another one of more well-known Argento films, which is basically deals with like a witch's coven, or what we've and at a ballet institution. Not sure what country it's in. It could be in Germany. I'm not completely sure. It's a great film. Got a lot of some pretty classic gore moments. One thing about Argento's films, there's always some really just like holy shit, kick-ass, gore murder moments in the films that kind of might make you feel guilty for cheering afterwards. But it's kind of the cheap shock that it gets. That's pretty entertaining. And another one is Tenebrae, which is an author has written a book, or kind of famous author, lives in New York, goes over to Italy to promote the book, and just finds out that there is a killer on the loose that's using the book as inspiration, or it seems like inspiration. And so he kind of starts to do his own little kind of investigating as well, along with some of the characters that are providing the sporting cast. Has a pretty kind of shocking twist ending that's pretty cool, and there's some kind of flashback sequences that that clue in a bit on the pathology of the murderer. It's got some interesting soundtrack. I think the band's name is Goblin, that did a lot of Dario Argento's films. It's a lot of synth, and it's weird. I mean, if like I said, if you're not, it might it could take you out of the film, but you just kind of got to go with it. It's interesting, kind of avant-garde synth type music. Though some of it's kind of got a rhythmic pattern, so it's a little bit more catchy, I guess you'd say. But it's interesting. It's kind of a signature sound. Like I said, this band has done a lot of work with Argento. So quite a few good films. Another one is Inferno, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. But the one I wanted to talk about is Phenomena, which is perhaps, on the list of, his movies. It may not be, one of the top ones, but for me, it's got the reason why it's up there is it's got one of the most like holy shit endings in horror film history as far as like, what the hell just happened. It's just like completely over the top. I won't even mention anything about it because you won't even see it coming. But yeah, just for that fact, it's just, like I said, yeah, it's the first time I saw it, I was just like, my jaw hit the floor. It was great. The ultra violence, as you might say, from the Clockwork Orange reference, a little bit of the ultra violence. But yeah, this film stars Jennifer Connelly back when she was a young gal. I'm not sure if this is before or after her appearance as a lead in the film Labyrinth, which is also another favorite of mine. And also you have Donald Pleasance, that you know from as Dr. Loomis from the Halloween series. He plays an entomologist in this film that's kind of a bit reclusive, and ends up befriending Jennifer Connelly's character because she's a bit of an outcast within her school for whatever reason. The other girls, she goes to this all girls boarding school in Switzerland, and she's I think she's the daughter of like a famous Hollywood movie director in the film. And she goes to this, like I said, this Swiss boarding school, and the rest of the girls and the faculty or whatever really just, for whatever reason, they think she's kind of weird. And is a bit of an oddball because she's got a kind of a, I don't know if you call it a psychic connection, or of some sort with insects, which is, kind of the interesting thing because you've got Donald Pleasance playing the entomologist and everything. But yeah, so that plays a part of it. So she's kind of got this unique power that becomes kind of a thing of contention between her and the other girls. So she doesn't want to obviously be at the school, and we also have a murderer, running loose, killing people, and so throughout her kind of little side adventures, trying to get away from the school, and the people there, she ends up kind of stumbling upon the truth of what all is going on. And it's interesting because in the murder scenes, it's an 80s film, but if you're familiar with the British heavy metal band Iron Maiden and their song "Flash of the Blade," it kicks in usually when the murders are about to take place or happen. So it's kind of interesting where you go from this kind of psychedelic avant-garde 70s or early 80s like synth stuff for a movie like Tenebrae into 1985, where you've got the soundtrack, and then all of a sudden you've got a heavy metal band like Iron Maiden that kicks in. So it's kind of interesting choice that they would but I mean, I guess it's kind of an appropriate song. And so, yeah, it's another kind of murder mystery, so you don't know exactly who is doing all the killing. But you've got like I said, and you've got this kind of weird psychic power with this girl, and which with insects, which is interesting because that's typically, not a, kind of a power that you see very often. But it definitely plays a role in the film. So yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I'm just this one specifically, I'm recommending, especially for the Argento fans that may have not seen it yet, that are more familiar with the movies like Tenebrae and Suspiria, Profondo Rosso, and so on and so forth. If you haven't watched this one yet, check it out. Like I said, it's got one of the most holy shit endings I've ever seen. Even though it's a bit dated in its, special effects and everything, it's just like, yeah, it's just crazy. It's totally crazy. And, so yeah, check it out. If you watch it and you agree that the ending is completely nuts, leave a comment down below in the comment section. If you've already seen the film and you want to comment on it, please, put a spoiler, heading before you put any comments in there, because I don't want it spoiled for other people. Because with a lot of films, once you've seen it the first time, it has it loses a bit of its punch after a while, even though it's still crazy. when you watch it on repeat viewings. But like I said, it's always that one time, the first time you see anything that it has, like I said, the most impact on you. And so yeah, Phenomena by Dario Argento, or directed by Dario Argento and written by Dario Argento. It's 1985. This one's a little bit longer. It's almost 2 hours, but it's a mystery, so it needs time to develop, and there's plenty of good moments. So check it out, and check out if you're not familiar with Dario Argento, just check out his films. Like I said, Suspiria, Tenebrae, and Deep Red, which is called Profondo Rosso in Italy. Start with those three after this one, of course, and see what you think. Argento is definitely a legend. He's up there with Romero and Carpenter and Wes Craven, who I'm not a real big fan of Wes Craven. I think he's kind of overrated. But and guys like Tobe Hooper and whatnot. So he's definitely up there in the pantheon of great horror directors. All right, guys, I'll see what film I can come up with next, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.